It's fall, time for a market update from one of our most active agents on the team on today's Real Talk. Today, we have the wonderful Sarah Pearson. Thanks for coming on, Sarah.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
Sarah, you've been actively working in this real estate market. You've been with our team for almost a year now. Tell me, this time of the year, it's always good to take the temperature of the market. What are you seeing in the market these days?
Yeah, so great question. And, it's really hard to answer that question just all in one lump sum. It's really, I'd have to divide it in the category of pricing, really.
Yeah.
Obviously, location always plays a factor in everything. But for pricing, we're seeing things in the higher end. So I would say 1.5 or even 1.8 above.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of inventory there.
A lot of inventory. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of people that bought their house 20 years ago, they've been watching the market the last 5 years ago, just going up and up and up and up. And now there's a hint that things are kind of on the trend downwards. And it seems like a lot of people are trying to unload them at the same time to move on to the next stage of life.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. But, all hope isn't lost for them. I think really the important thing for houses within that price range, it just comes down to pricing. If you're priced appropriately, priced in this current market competitively, you're still going to get those showings and your house will still sell. It might not be at that high price that we saw that was kind of the norm the last 3 years. So I understand that there's some hesitancy with sellers and it's hard to grasp where prices are now. But to talk on your point where it's, if you did buy 20 years ago, you're still in the up of pretty much whatever price you're going to get now.
Yeah. Sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow when people see the dollar sign versus what it was a couple of years ago. But there's still, you have to look at the equity that's built up over 10, 20 years or more in many cases. So that's at the higher price point. What are you seeing at the lower price point? Yeah,
so this is something that I could speak to pretty well. I've been looking a lot in the Hamilton area, specifically in that price range of 600 and below for a detached freehold home. And probably over the last 3 years, you would have seen these houses holding offers and get 7 offers and just a crazy frenzy like that.
20, 30 offers.
Yeah, totally, right? So now we are still seeing those houses come up and they're holding offers, but they might not even get one.
Right.
So while I still think it's a seller's market in that category, there's still more room now for buyers to negotiate. So they can bring in those conditions. It might take them a couple tries with their offer to get that seller to...
Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 days of negotiating back and forth rather than a one and done.
Exactly. It's not so hard and fast anymore. That seller might come back to you a week later and say, okay, we had some time to think about it and we're good to go with your offer. So, buyers have to be a little bit more patient, but it's still, I think, a great market for first-time home buyers to get into.
And so, there are definitely two distinct markets, at least two distinct markets. So the lower end is doing something completely different than what the upper end is
Exactly,
doing.
yeah.
But what you can depend on this time of year, you can almost set your watch to it, is the inventory is going to continue to climb up and up and up until usually around January. So good news for first-time home buyers, you're going to have more and more to choose from. And the number of sales kind of goes down as well as people, they put their real estate plans on pause for the holidays, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing I want to bring up with you that I thought was pretty interesting, I've heard of this before, but it was interesting to get your take. Tell me about the gray house.
Yeah, so the gray house, if anybody who is kind of searching, I'd say in Hamilton in that price range of the 600K below, is this house that's been flipped. And it's all gray flooring and it's all gray paint. It's that paint that if you just touch it, it's got this huge smudge on it already.
It's all the square trim and the same doors and all that.
We see these houses and they come up and they're in that price range that, it looks pretty good and the house looks good in pictures and it looks flashy to first-time home buyers. But really, these houses still need a lot of the work done.
In most cases, Yeah,
so they could still need new windows, new roof. new doors. You know, there could be things wrong with the foundation, but they've really done a cover-up job. So I've been advising my first-time home buyers who are looking in this price range to kind of look at places within that price range that look a little bit more dated.
Right.
Yeah.
Or unique, maybe.
Yeah, because, you know, if you can think about just changing some flooring and paint, well, then really you've done exactly what the gray house has done.
And on the flip side, if you're renovating a house, stay away from some of these typical, I mean, you'll know when you see it, gray floors, just like you had said, etc. You know, savvy buyers are aware of all of these finishes and they attribute it to low build quality. And then they start to take a, you know, a very close look at all the mechanical, or they steer clear of the property in general because they just assume it's another gray house, as you put it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Sarah. That's
Well,
great.
Thanks for having me.